All right. So welcome to June 3rd at 6:76 Google Hangout on the air. My apologies for our screwed up schedule last week, and we were unable to meet because of technical difficulties. But I'm glad that you guys are here. I don't, Jules, you have not had a chance to introduce yourself. So do you want to take a moment to introduce yourselves? And Rachel, maybe you can say a little bit about yourself as well. And Joseph, I can answer any questions about myself. I can do that for you as well. So why don't we start there?
Okay. Well, teaching's a second career for me. I was in law for quite a while. I've I teach social studies, but right now I'm out on a medical leave because of a disability that I have. I was an elected official for 19 years. I've uh, done a lot of, basically I feel like I've done social studies, but my main focus, I guess, in graduate education has been to figure out ways to get my students to be active
Mm-hmm.
citizens in the community. And that's basically about me.
And where do you teach, Jules?
Upper Dublin High School.
Okay, very cool. Rachel, do you want to reintroduce yourself for Jules' sake?
Sure. I'm currently in the master's program at Arcadia. I'm getting my cert in pre-K through 4. I'm very interested in this course because as a future teacher, I know that our students are using technology all the time, and I want to be able to tap into that as a resource. I currently am an SAT tutor for high schoolers, but I will be focusing on elementary once I get in the classroom.
Awesome. And Jules, I teach my students 11th and 12th grade English at the Science Leadership Academy. And I have been teaching in the school district of Philadelphia for past 8 years, and I've done some work around connected learning principles, and my first book just came out last month. I've just thought deeply about technology, but more so than that, I think I've figured out that I can learn a lot from my students about how they use technology, and about thinking about the ways about how I can bring their interests in my own classroom. So those are the things that I've thought about, and that's one of the reasons why I was interested in teaching this course, because I thought it would be a great topic to take on, because technology is continually evolving and changing. And as I learned from my high school students, I was hoping that I can learn from my graduate school students as well, and um, hoping that this class would be as much a constructed experience between all of us, than rather than just me, sharing what I know alone, because I think that can be very limited experience. So I wanted to begin today with maybe a highlight from this week. Was there something that happened at school or in your work or in your life that made you either think about this class, or the things that you're thinking about in terms of your own practice? I just wanted to start the session with maybe a connection to this class, or the way that you're thinking about this class outside of this time. Was there something that resonated with you from the reading that you'd like to share or begin with this evening?
Well, the assignment you gave us to talk to our mentor, um, I would not have done it without that assignment. And it was great that I spoke to you again yesterday, and we spent 40 minutes on we were talking, and she gave me some great ideas. And not only that, she wants to follow up. She wants me to call her again in a month and see what I've done. And that that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had it as an assignment, actually. Getting back in touch with her.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Can someone jump into this evening's Google Doc by clicking on Drive and take over some of the note-taking, whatever you can capture?
I'll do
Um,
it.
you'll do it, Rachel? That would
Yeah.
mean that would mean a lot to me. I think it's important that we capture our thoughts from these events, and it's great to have a record of like what people are thinking. Um, so let's see who just joined. Sandra, you just joined us. Do you
Yeah,
want
I want to say I think some people are having trouble getting in.
to?
Because we were on the YouTube where we could just see the discussion, but we couldn't participate. And then I went back into my email and got your invitation.
Yeah,
So I know Rachel is sitting there, so I'm just going to click out back to the YouTube and let them know to go to their email.
yeah. I think if they always check their email, the invitation is sent a week before, and then I sent it the evening of again. So, okay, yeah. If you want to get them.
Okay, hold on.
Rachel was.
I definitely agree with Jules about the mentor, talking to a mentor. Before I read the chapter in your book about turning to a mentor, I'm not sure I understood that a mentor could be someone like outside the field that you're working in, which led me to think about who influences me in my life, and whether it be family, friends, other professionals, and it really just helped me broaden the scope of what that could be.
Jules and Rachel, would you talk a moment about your mentors? I'm really curious about who who those who those people are and what you've gained from them. Oh, hold on, got muted. Hold on 1 second, Jules. I don't know how you get. Just I don't know why your microphone is muted. Can you unmute yourself? Can you try to click on the microphone up on top?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So my mentor is somebody you actually quoted in your book. It's Kira Baker Doyle.
Oh, okay.
So she's an associate professor at Arcadia, and I got in contact. We got in contact with each other because she's helping with the Rendell Center for Citizenship.
Oh, yeah.
My emphasis again is on teaching citizenship and getting the students into active
Right.
citizenship. So we ran into each other at another seminar that we were both at, and so for a couple of years now we've been working on figuring out what works, what doesn't work. My students, I gave her data that she used in a paper and gratefully put my name on it too. But
That's wonderful.
so yeah, that's who I turn to for my mentor.
That's awesome. Rachel, do you want to say a word about your mentor?
Sure. Before this class started, I didn't really view my mother-in-law as a mentor. She was a teacher in the Philadelphia School District in elementary schools for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I always looked to her for stories and things like that. Like, she has a lot of very good stories. But I think these stories can turn into teachable moments for me, because for having taught for 40 years in Philadelphia, she's seen a lot of different things and reacted to a lot of different situations.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think she can become like a great mentor for me as far as experience is concerned in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. Sandra, do you have a mentor that you possibly chose as part of your assignment to highlight a mentor?
My district actually assigned two mentors to me.
Uh-huh.
They assigned a special ed consultant who's for the district, and so I don't get to see her every day. You know, if I need her, then I can email her or call her, and she comes and we set up an appointment. They also assigned me an in-building mentor, and that is someone that I can seek anytime I need them, and he's been a great help. We're not even in the same department, so it
Mm-hmm.
sort of, it kind of helps get away from that isolation of just talking to the people right in your department.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned different perspectives, different ideas of what's going on in other parts of the building. It's been really, really helpful. I did blog my interview with him.
That's
It was
awesome.
very interesting.
I'm I'm curious about the nature of your relationship with your mentors. Like, what kind of questions or situations do you approach them with? And then more importantly, Jules, you sort of touched on this, like, what have your mentors gained from having you as part of their lives? So in what ways is this relationship, more on an equal footing and richer because of the exchange and not just one-sided nature of it. Do you all have any thoughts on that?
I do. Kira approaches this mostly from a theoretical point of view, citizenship
Right.
teaching, and she uses my real life experiences as part of what, how she helps form her ideas, and I'm using her theory to help me in the classroom. So we basically go back and forth with that.
Do you guys know if people can join after a Google Hangout has started? I wonder.
Well, I did,
I think
Yeah,
you can.
but I do see that Jennifer couldn't get in,
yeah, I'm gonna invite them again.
Angelique, Rachel,
Yeah, this is really sad.
and I told them they had to go back to their email, and I don't know.
Uh, I can still only watch. I'd love to talk about my mentor. Me too. Am I supposed to click on something to connect? I didn't have any trouble last week, not too sure. I just invited them again. I don't know why they can't. Yeah, I think they can still join.
Yeah. So things that I've used my mentor for
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Sonia.
is this year there's been a lot of different mandates and policy changes, and so being unsure of some of those, I've gone to him frequently to see there's been a lot of deadlines and a lot of paperwork we've had to do.
Yeah,
It's been a tremendous help with that. And for my special ed consultant, obviously, more case specific, more kiddo specific questions.
right, that makes sense.
I definitely think I have like a newer perspective on classrooms, and my mother-in-law is always interested in hearing about technology and connected learning. She claims that if she had to start teaching now, she may not be able to do it because in her generation, the technology just wasn't the same and it wasn't changing as rapidly as it does today.
Um, that's a interesting perspective. Do you guys all think that that would hold true for you, that you're being challenged by adapting technology in your own work?
I
Certainly encouraged.
Sorry, go ahead. Two people started at the same time. We couldn't hear.
Go ahead, Sandra.
I was just saying it's definitely encouraged. I mean, one of our observations is through a Keystone Opportunity Grant, and part of it is all technology based. And so we get something called a heat observation, and part of that component is technology. So when they come into your room, you need to be using technology in some way, or you lose points in that part of your evaluation. So yeah, it's definitely out there and promoted.
It's somewhat tough. I mean, I consider myself a digital immigrant, not a digital native, in learning all of the things that are popping up that are available, and the course is helping a lot. I find myself more on Twitter now than I ever was before on the different education channels. But it's also frustrating because like my school district, I think it was 7 years ago, 6 years ago, bought laptops on cards, and they've never replaced them. And so there are keys missing. It takes too long. We don't use them anymore, actually, in my department. If there's not a computer lab available, we just get the technology. So it's a little frustrating that it's not kept up to date.
I definitely think that having grown up using technology for most of my life, as far as like the modern internet is concerned, is an advantage, but it can also be harder because it becomes so natural to me. Like naturally, I may not think of using it as much as I could in a classroom setting.
In what ways is it more difficult to think of using technology?
I think part of it is the age group, like working with elementary schoolers. I'm not exactly sure how much or how little technology they use. Like my third graders that I taught this past year, none of them have cell phones yet. So it's just a little different than dealing maybe with high schoolers too.
Right. So I just tried inviting our folks again. Oh, Angelique just joined us. Angelique, can you unmute your microphone? And we should be able to converse with you then. So I wanted to take care of some like questions or concerns you may have from last week or this week. Do you have any questions about the requirement for the course or any of the assignments that have been posted so far? In my latest announcement, I tried to make clear that the bare minimum expectation is that you're blogging once a week. If you want to write more, since it's such a short amount of time, you're welcome to do so. But I understand how difficult that can be if you're still teaching. Jules, is school still in session for you?
School's still in session, but I'm not in there since I'm on disability.
Oh, okay, yeah. So school is still in session for me, and I'm trying.
Me as well.
Yeah, trying to juggle everything at once. So whatever you can do, but it's expected that you're writing about once a week on your blog, and then doing the other assignments and readings as posted. But I wanted to check in with you all to see if the expectations for the class and the assignments, are they clear? Is there something I can clarify while we're all together?
I did take the question on the Blackboard. It says to blog once a week, but then there's also a submission box. Are we supposed to just copy and paste our blog in there every week?
No, it's just there as a reminder because it emails you that you have an assignment. And sometimes, like, let's say you're blogging, this is ambitious, but let's say you blog 3 times in 1 week. Like, when I post an assignment, like, that's a suggested like writing topic, like please interview your mentor. But then 2 other times you might write like, hey, this really cool thing happened in my classroom, or this really challenging thing happened in my classroom, or at my work and I didn't know how to make sense of it, like maybe someone else can comment on my blog and give me some feedback. So when I post an assignment, I'm thinking that that's a very specific thing I want everyone to do. Like the mentor assignment was specifically designed to force all of us to think about mentors in our lives and the roles that they play. And Jules brought up some like beautiful connections about ways they've like actually been on equal footing in their relationship. And Rachel brought up an amazing point that there was a mentor right in front of her, but she didn't think of her that way. So I'm sort of urging, intentionally urging to think about the mentors in your lives and honor them in some way. So sometimes I will create an assignment that specifically like meets an idea or forces us to all think about and write about and talk about a specific idea.
And are we supposed to respond to classmates' blogs?
Yeah, and I think Sanu has created a spreadsheet where um, everyone's blog. One second, Jenny is responding that she can't get in the class. I had no problem last week. Hold on, try this link. Let's try this. So I wanted to look at this week's assignments. You did the mentorship one. Do you have any? You did the mentorship one, this one, and then looking ahead to next week's assignments. I posted additional readings, and I've asked you to highlight a teacher network in the next week's blog post. So it's similar to highlighting a mentor, but this time I'm asking you to think about teacher networks. But since this idea might seem like overwhelming to some people, are there some teacher networks that you already know of that, when I say teacher networks, you can already think of some? Anjali, could you possibly mute your microphone? It's up on top. Okay, thank you so much. You can unmute whenever you want to share. So similar to the highlighting a mentor, I'm asking you to highlight a teacher network. Are there some teacher networks that you're already aware of or are part of that more teachers you think should know about but may not know about? I was thinking we could like brainstorm a list today so people are not leaving here feeling overwhelmed.
I mean, there are a lot of chats on Twitter. I know for one class I had to do math chat once a week. I know there's a special ed chat, which I go on and see the conversations. It's just a place where every week they meet at a certain time and just discuss anything that they might have to discuss. And there's a lot of Twitter groups like that.
Yeah, and so AngChat is the one that I've started, and it's 7 p.m. on Mondays. So if you teach English, I think social studies is also 7 p.m. unfortunately at the same time on Mondays. I don't know.
There's a Gov chat too that's 2 Sundays a month.
Okay. That's awesome. And all of these probably have corresponding sites and people who run them. So if you want to know more, you can find out about them. So that's social media. What other teacher networks do you utilize, or that you know that you're happy to be proud of, that you think more people should know about?
I mean, the obvious one for people teaching is PSEA, the Teacher Association.
Mm-hmm.
You can get advice, um, information, materials.
Right.
One I use, this is Angelique, one I use is the Center for Teacher Quality Collaboratory,
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
which is pretty, it's
CTQ?
so
Yeah.
bright and vivid, and it's constant. Like you can get messages on a daily basis, or you can get them on a weekly or monthly, and people are constantly talking about every avenue of education, teaching, learning, training, and connectedness from every perspective globally.
Two that I write about in my book, and then elsewhere in my life. The National Writing Project was a very big influence on me as a teacher, and shaping me as an educator, and helping me find a community. So there are in-person networks, there are online networks. I don't think we're short on number of networks available to us. Um, and I think it would be great if people, took the time to like highlight more than one, but if you can at least just highlight one. And I think specifically if you could talk about what the network does, what their goals are, what kind of teacher it attracts, what kind of resources it offers, and ways that people can get involved in them, I think we can build kind of a cool curation of our class knowledge of networks that are available to us, if that makes sense. Did you have any questions about the upcoming week's assignments or readings, or
Yeah.
um, how what has been your experience with the reading? I was hoping to, with the rest of the time that we have remaining, I was hoping to take some observations and questions from the reading. If you've jotted some notes down in Thrive or in elsewhere, I think it would be awesome to bring up some things that resonated with you, things that you observed or noticed, things that stood out to you, or maybe things that you didn't agree with, or things that you want to push back on from any of the readings last week and this week's reading. Are there things that we should bring up and discuss as class?
I found the RSA animation on the power of networks really interesting. In particular, the idea of organized complexity.
Yeah.
Because when I first heard that term, I thought it sounded a little contradictory.
Yeah.
But then I realized that there are trees of knowledge, and today there are networks of knowledge.
Yeah.
I think the author says something interesting, that humans strive for unity and balance, but in an interconnected and connected society, sometimes that balance isn't there, and it takes a mental shift to kind of get with the program of working on the internet, and that's the network today. So I just found that really interesting.
I thought that and this may seem really obvious and cursory to say, but I thought the visualization of networks was really important in that piece too. Like, it really helped me to see the transition, as you said, from trees to networks. I think some of us very much still live in the former rather than the latter. Um, Conceptual thinking around networks, and I think that's really really interesting.
It got me thinking of the way schools are organized. We have 51 minutes in math, and then you leave and you do 51 minutes of English, and then you leave and you do 51 minutes of science.
Yeah.
They should be connected more than they are in our schools.
I want to give Jennifer a chance to say hello. Jennifer?
Hey guys, sorry I
Um,
finally got on here. The
sorry,
link never worked.
sorry it was so difficult, but I'm glad that you're here. I think this is the first time you and I are interacting. Do you want to just, for the sake of others who may not have interacted with you before, do you want to just say hi, what you teach, where you teach, and maybe why you decide to take this course?
Sure. I teach at Upper Merion Area High School, and I teach, currently right now I teach a ninth grade computer curriculum, accounting and marketing. I took this course as part of, well, I had to take it as part of my master's program.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't originally the first course that I was supposed to take, but then I wasn't allowed in the other course. So I landed here. But I'm actually kind of excited about it because I get the chance, I think, with the blog to kind of like share my ideas and activities that I use in the classroom. And I think you'll see, like, on my blog, I don't sound like I'm complaining, but I think sometimes with a blog that kind of leads to that.
Yeah.
Not that I mean to, but I just kind of wish, especially with the last blog I just posted about the last chapter, chapter 2, about networking, and it was kind of funny while I was reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, I really wish this is what my school would be like, but it's not. And kind of like finding other resources, and I started to do that. And last year I went to the CSTA conference in Philly, and then this year I'm going to go to the same conference, but it's now going to be in Chicago. So I find that to be helpful. And then I've also found it helpful networking with my colleagues in the middle school who also teach computer classes, and kind of getting a feel for what their curriculum is and what my kids are going to be coming to me as and what they should be knowing, and just kind of collaborating. And the guys in the middle school are super helpful as kind of like letting me know what's up with those students particularly, and kind of what they're doing and how I can kind of enhance what they're doing and bring it up to the high school.
So we were just going around and sharing right before you joined us. We were just going around and sharing some of our observations and some of our questions or possible pushback from the readings from last week and this week. If you'd like to share that, and then once everyone feels like they've shared, I like to go back to your point of why isn't this happening in my school, because I think that's a really important point. Everywhere I go and I get a chance to speak about Thrive, sometimes teachers will come up like quietly after the presentation and say, this is really nice, but it's not happening in my school. It's so sad. And I want to think more on that with you all, but I also want to honor everyone else's voice and make sure that everyone's had a chance to share their questions, observations, and pushback on the reading. So if you all want to continue, I think Rachel had started. Oh no, everyone got quiet.
Oh, Rachel's is muted, it looks like.
Oh.
No.
Is Rachel going now? I'm confused.
Oh yeah, I was confused. I thought I like shared, and I was waiting for other people to share.
Yeah, if somebody else wants to jump in.
I had a general question just from reading your book about Ed Camp.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh yeah, me too.
Act 48 given for that?
Usually not, because it's organized so openly, and like maybe they might agree my use of word loosely, but it's not, it's not so narrowed down focused that sometimes it's not. But it's interesting how Act 48 works. This past weekend I spoke at Penn to about 30 educators about global connections, and they got Act 48, and I thought those were like golden tickets. I thought that was like they were so hard to get. But the
Right.
woman was like, "No, I just gave description of what you were gonna do, and yes, anyone who comes today is getting Act 48." So I think it might be like easier to get those than teachers might actually think, or administrators or organizers might actually think. So I think that's interesting. I thought it was like, oh my God, you have to do so much paperwork to get those, but it doesn't seem that difficult.
Huh.
Hmm. Um, Jennifer, you said you also had a question about EdCamp?
I mean, it was very similar to Sandra's.
Okay.
And I mean, I feel like last year when I went to the CSTA at Drexel, it sounds like it's pretty similar, just a little bit more structured. And I was just kind of curious as to, like, just the different topics and things like that, and types of. I mean, I'm good for Act 48 for the summer, so I'm good. I don't need that.
I think it's also interesting when we equate grades to learning in our classes, and then we equate learning to Act 48 credits. I think the whole like jumble of what is learning, that question continues in my mind. You know, like someone who gets an A in my grade, have they actually learned, or have they just gotten an A? And does Act 48 credit actually mean learning, or you know, I don't know. I think it's interesting. But then here we are in a very like as loose and confusing as this experience has been. This is like a graduate course, you know, offered by a university. So I think it's interesting how we define learning and in what context and where and how we learn. I'm fascinated by that.
Well, and just getting the time to go, to get it approved by administration.
Yeah.
So difficult. That was my other question. How do you get administration who doesn't support that kind of thing? What can you do to show them the importance of it?
I think wisely, most of the ed camps are on a Saturday, so you really do have to make effort on your own time to go, and you're not missing time with your students to do learning. Even though I think teacher learning should be valued and there should be time available in one's life for learning. I think when you're facing a reluctant administrator, and I'd love to hear from others. Like I don't know any more than you guys do. I think you have to connect your learning to student outcome or student learning and say, I would like to do this better. I would like to do better technology integration, or I would like to learn more about like the Socratic method, and I like to go check this very specific talk out. Then I think there's a better case for it. Yeah, I can understand how hard it is to be up against a possible administrator who's not supportive. Like in my mentor chapter, I think the first person I name is my boss. So that's not the case for all teachers, and it's kind of difficult. How about you guys? What do you do when you face lack of administration support, when you want to try new things, or when you want to manage your own learning?
Well, you can try to negotiate a little. I know last year I was invited down to the Southern Curriculum Studies Collaborative or something to give a presentation on what I was doing about citizenship education, and it would have meant I would miss the last 2 days of school, and it's 2 days when students aren't even in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And my principal said no.
Mm.
I was going to drive down, so we compromised the point where I missed the last day. Instead, I flew down. They gave me half a day, and I took my last half day of personal day that I had left in the year.
Mm.
So there's that, and that was a prior principal. We have a new principal this year that I think is better, but he always gave that school meetings was like you described, the principal in the front of the room talking about things that have very little relevance to us in our classrooms, instead of us learning from each other. We had one professional development day about 3 or 4 years ago that all the teachers raved about, and I don't know why we didn't do it again, which was similar to, I think, what you described in one of your chapters, where the teachers talk about, either that or something else I read, where the teachers talk about things they're passionate about, and you
Mhm.
get to go to whichever. It's the Ed Camp description, that's right.
Mhm.
It was similar to the Ed Camp description, where you got to sign up for whatever one you wanted to go to, and different teachers were presenting in different classrooms. And we didn't have to pay to bring in a speaker who would speak above us anyway, not practical, but theoretical, and it was great. The problem is getting the administration to do that more often.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, I've had experience in multiple schools, and I've only had one principal out of the 6 that I've ever been working for that really was adamantly against teacher development, but yet she wanted us all to be perfect. And so I actually had to do teacher induction, and I
Oh,
had to
wow.
leave a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes before the end of school, and it was my prep period, and she refused to let me go, knowing that it was essential for me to get certified. When we're talking about mentors, I also use my mentors as advocates. So I was able to get a mentor who was in an influential position to advocate on my behalf, as a teacher coach and as a peer of hers. She
Mhm.
was able to go to her and say, this is non-negotiable. She needs to go to induction, and she needs to develop her skill sets. And anybody else would have known that. I'm not quite sure why any principal wouldn't want you to advance induction, because it's a requirement. So I was able to use the correct mentor for the correct response. And that's
Mhm.
when I read in your chapter 1, when you were talking about having different types of mentors, it
Mhm.
kind of popped out to me. I was like, yeah, I use them for different things. Unfortunately, I'm at the point where I have so many mentors that I'm not quite sure what to use them for in what category. But when in the beginning stages, when I was developing my mentors, that was one thing that was very important to me, is that I had mentors who had influence and
Mhm.
were able to speak on my behalf when I was in a quote-unquote jam like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so, uh, I was curious, and I don't know if you all are interested in this question or not, but I was interested in Jennifer's question, which sort of ties into the tone that an administrator sets in a building. But Jennifer brought up a point that, like, I'm sometimes disappointed that I don't see this sort of learning happening across more schools. What do you all think about that? Why do you think schools struggle to make um, themselves a place where teachers are, for lack of a better word, thriving?
I know in my school, we all got iPads, and
Mm-hmm.
then one of the local colleges was going to offer using iPads in the classroom. And some of us signed up to go, and you have to get it approved by administration, and we were all turned down. So we were given these iPads, but no tools on how to use them. And it all comes down to budget in my district. They said they couldn't pay for us to go there and do that. That maybe they'd have professional development and have someone from the IU come in. And that was a year and a half ago, and we still haven't had that.
Mm.
Budget is a big thing.
So tools are useless when the training or the appropriate freedom to learn isn't there, like the tool.
Absolutely.
Right.
I
What?
think,
What?
sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think it's interesting that you say that, because I teach at a one-to-one school, and as a one-to-one school, all teachers have a MacBook, and all students have a MacBook, and we had professional developments. It's been about 6 or 7 years since we've started it.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think that
That's okay.
most, if not all, teachers would be using the laptops in everyday use in the
Are they
math class.
using it as a paperweight?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I would say it's getting better, but I currently, my course and the teen health ninth grade course kind of
Mm-hmm.
are really meant to kind of work together and collaborate in projects. And I often find the teacher that I work with there, he's been teaching for a fairly long time, and he just refuses to do anything with a computer unless I like push it on him. And it's almost like I'm force feeding it
Mm-hmm.
into him, and it's just like it's just funny because he still makes his students each week they have to do a current event and they have to like summarize it and things like that. And he still makes them print it out, write it out, or
Mm-hmm.
there's so many like awesome other ways you could do that, and he's just so stubborn and set in his ways. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you come across a lot of teachers that are like that, that are just stubborn, set in their ways, and they're not willing to accept change because I think most of the time they're not comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
teaching using technology. And it's almost hysterical but sad at the same time.
Yeah.
I totally agree, especially to your point about being comfortable, because some people aren't even comfortable using the computer, so they think it would be really hard to implement it in their classrooms. But I do agree that it's necessary, and there are ways that technology make things more efficient and can enhance learning.
Oh, totally. I mean, paper trail, every kid loses paper in high school. It's just, why would you even do that to yourself?
I think it's interesting the wide spectrum of teachers I've seen in my brief career. I've seen, and again, like these are broad generalizations, and for them, I hope you'll forgive me. But I've seen teachers who have been in the game, so to speak, for a long time, and you would like one would wrongly assume that they would be reluctant adapters or learners of educational technology, but they jump right in and learn, and not only learn but are teaching and changing practice in their schools. And then I've also seen like brand new graduates out of School of Education come into my classroom to observe or to teach or to just like visit, and they're like, wait, you do that, like you use like, and I'm like, oh my god, you grew up with this, you're like 21 years old, like shouldn't you be teaching me about this stuff? So I think I've seen, I've seen a mixture of what adaptation can look like. And I think what I and I don't think this is a barometer, but I have this feeling that people who try things, and it's not just about technology, people who try new methods of teaching, people who try new assignments, people who try new ways of being a teacher, are people who are in love with their work and are still looking to find joy and energy in it. And it has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with their training. It has nothing to do with whether they went to an Ivy League school or not. It's just something about them that makes them say, oh, you know what? Like, I want to figure this out for my kids because I'm really excited about what I'm going to do with it for my students. So that's not really a solution. But so what can we do when we're faced with a teaching partner who's reluctant to change practice or try new methods?
I know for me, I know
Yes.
this might sound really awful, but
No, go ahead. This is a safe space.
I often, because I share the kids with him and myself. So
Right.
when they're not with me, they're with him, and then the next day they come to me, and they'll say, Mr. Dodds made us do this, this, and this. I go, well, why don't you approach Mr. Dodds and ask him to try it a different way?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh no, we did, and he laughed in our face. I'm like, so I tried the method of, well, I approached him and asked, and then
Now you do it. Yeah.
and I even offered a couple of times to like sit down with him and explain and come to his department meetings, and because he's the department head as well, and kind of explain like how to use certain applications in the MacBook. I mean, he just doesn't want any parts of it. And
I was going to ask if you offered to help, but it seems
oh
like
no,
you've already done that. So, um, how about others? Do you guys have ideas of what you do or what one can possibly do when faced with a reluctant? And it's not just about technology. Maybe someone's less than willing to try a student-centered approach to teaching and learning. So, how do you overcome the challenge of colleagues who are not maybe doing things that benefit students in the best way possible?
So how do we convince them to teach differently?
Yeah, or how do you affect change in your own schools?
For me, I have had to do cooperative teaching. I don't know if anybody else has had to do that, where you have to teach with another
I
teacher
do
for a
that.
full 90-minute period.
I do.
And that was very challenging. All of a sudden, the person you loved in the lunchroom is now somebody you want to strangle in the classroom because you didn't realize that your personality has a lot to do with how you share information. It's just not the information that you're sharing that matters. It's how you're communicating. And so after doing an introduction lesson, after we did a great lesson plan, we planned it all out, we went into class, and we were a disaster together. So they allowed me the opportunity to just sit down at lunch and figure out, well, what was our strengths and what was our weaknesses. And it was that I was trying to be progressive and student-centered, and they were like, textbook, this is how I was taught. So for us, it was important to figure out, well, what was our stimuli? What was our goal? So our goal was actually that the students would learn, they would achieve through summative and formative assessments. So we at least had the same mission. So I was like, well, what do you feel strong doing? And it was literally reading the textbook, making them memorize things, and kind of having the students regurgitate back. So what we were able to do is kind of compromise, where I would do the things that were my strength, but we would still integrate her strengths as well. So that there was parts where we had to do memorization, and that there were games where the students had flashcards and they couldn't see the answer and they had to remember what it was. So we added some creativity to that. And then the other teacher that I was working with, who was a science teacher, I teach math, they felt validated. Because me just telling them, hey, you're in the dark ages, was not effective, and a lot of other teachers had done that and basically rebuffed the teacher, and that's how I got that teacher, was nobody else would work with them. And I think it's important that we encourage each other wherever we're at, not just judge them and go, well, why aren't they current? It's 2014. It's more like, well, what do you need to get to the next layer, and what do I need to do to make sure that I'm supporting that?
I think it goes back to the idea of like mentors and mentees, and that it's an equal like opportunity for both people to connect and learn from one another. And where I might excel, like someone else might excel in another area, and I can certainly learn from them. So
And
that's fascinating.
that's kind of what I was going to say. The first thing that you have to do is not alienate the other person. You know, like, you're doing this wrong. It's not a good first step. You know, I really like the way you're doing that. I have an idea. Can I try it? You know, try to make it a little bit more non-confrontational.
Absolutely.
That's what I've had to do.
So we only have about 2 minutes remaining, and this is the third week of the class, and if you can believe it or not, it's midpoint of this class, and you don't have like a midterm exam per se, but is there something that you'd like to see from this class that you're not getting, or is there something you'd like to experience in the next 3 weeks that I should curate or collect? This is my first time teaching the course, so I already have a long list of things I would do differently, starting even how I'm starting the class. But thanks for hanging with me. But is there something else that that you'd like to learn more about, or like to see more readings about, or like to have examples of that. And you don't have to think of it right in this moment, or maybe you don't even want to say it in front of other people, which I respect. Maybe you'd like to email me privately and say, hey, you know what, I'd really like to learn more about this. Could we make more time for this? Or I'd really like to tackle this question like we tackled Jennifer's question last week. Could we focus on that? Or, hey, I'm facing this specific situation. Could we hear from some people on how they would handle it? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything I can clarify for next week in terms of assignments, requirements, or readings before we sign off? Because I want to be respectful of your time.
No.
No, I'm good.
We're good.
Yep. Just gotta finish them.
Okay, well, thanks for all that you're doing, and thanks for blogging. At the end of this Google Doc, that special thanks to Rachel for copious amounts of notes that she's
No
taken.
problem.
I hope you all will take a moment to review, because we probably have missed one or two comments from each of us. At the bottom of the document, and I can post it up on top as well, I put a link that takes you to the list of everyone's blog. If your blog's already isn't already on there, please add your blog to this list, and that's how we'll keep track of each other's blogs. I hope you are taking the time to read each other's posts and comment, because it's awesome to. I got a comment on my blog today, and I was so excited. So it's nice to know that someone's reading out in the world what you're writing. So I hope we're doing that for each other. If there isn't anything else, I'd like to end on time, and I'll see you next week, next Tuesday. Actually, you know what? There's actually something I wanted to ask you before we all sign off. Um, can we change the June 17th Google Hangout time, because it's my school's graduation, and I'm going to be at graduation at the time? Is there a possible way that we could do it like um, maybe another day that week, or
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I actually won't be here next week because I have my school's graduation.
okay.
So
Did you change the time for next week? Because I think it's at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it did.
I did. I will go ahead and change it if I haven't already. Yeah, it should be 7 o'clock for next week.
Oh,
Okay.
Um, okay. What day would work best for everyone the week of June 17th? I know, Jennifer, you said you can't, or somebody said they can't make it that week, but
It would be Mondays or Wednesdays for me.
Definitely. For me
Yeah.
as well.
same.
okay. Can we do Monday at 7 then?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
have your
Okay.
Meenoo, don't you have your own chat then?
Yeah, I'll just someone else is hosting, so I don't necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So make it Monday the 16th then.
Yeah, Monday the 16th.
Okay,
That will work.
that'll work.
Actually, you know what? That might not work. Actually, I don't know, because I have another chat on Wednesday. Actually, neither Monday or Wednesday would work for me. It's the only time that works. We might have to cancel that week, because I can only do Thursday or Friday, and I can't do Monday or Wednesday.
That's Thursday for everybody else.
Should we make it Thursday and just see who can make it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, we'll have to do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So So week of the 17th, we'll move it to Thursday the 19th at 7. I'll post
Okay.
it on our Arcadia um, Blackboard, and if you guys can join the Arcadia Connected Learning Google Plus community, I've invited you all to that. Kira Baker Doyle would really like us to be on there, so if we could all use that space to share ideas and links and cool things.
Can you double check and see if I'm on your Google Doc or Google Doc group, because I haven't gotten an invitation, and this is the first time I've seen a Google Doc, and I'm not sure if I got left out or if this is the first
No,
time I've done it.
yeah, I added you to the Arcadia Circle on Google Plus, so you should get all invites and everything from now on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. Okay, if you guys have any other questions or concerns or challenges you face, feel free to email me, and I'll see you all next week.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye guys.
Night.
Bye.